All right. We are here for episode 3 breakdown on self confidence, Laws of Success Deluxe Edition. And again, um, goal of this is to be spreading enough value to be able to create um, enough value to be able to work with our future gym that we're going to be creating, as well as emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical growth in young men. That's what we're looking to do, is create that MMA gym to be able to expand that and give people the outlet that they need. I'll put the link in the bottom if you guys want to donate. If not, enjoy. This is helping me learn, and I hope to help you guys learn as much as I possibly can and try to relay this at a simple level. So let's get here. Let's get this going. All right, all right. Self-confidence. It's everything, guys. Self-confidence is everything. It's the beginning to every first step we make. It's the beginning to really a new life, a new experience, a new perspective in the world, because there's a lot of money to be made on lack of self-confidence, and there's a lot of marketing materials out there to enhance sales for people with lack of self-confidence. So we're going to try to break this down and see how we can gain that self-confidence in our everyday life and make it to where we love ourselves, but we know not that we're better than anybody else, but that we understand the power and capability that we have as a human being. So self-confidence. The chapter begins talking about skepticism, and it says basically doubt. So doubt is the deadly enemy of progress and self-development. Fear is the chief reason for poverty, for failure, and misery. And I mean, this takes on many, many, many different forms of fear. The development of self confidence starts with the elimination of the demon called fear, the one that's always whispering in our ear. Joe Rogan, he'll talk about in some of his old videos before he was signed with Spotify. And when things were live, he would talk about it. He's like that little bitch voice that's talking in your ear, like, you can't do it, you're not good enough. Well, what if this happens? What if somebody criticizes you? Or what if it just doesn't work out? And those little doubts in your mind that take us away from becoming the best version of ourselves, or challenging ourselves and taking on a new opportunity that's going to lead us to a doorway to open that we've been hoping for and our whole lives. But again, we can't hope. Demanding and hoping are completely different, and we'll break into that in just a little bit. The 6 basic fears restated, we talked about it in a previous episode, but we're going to be really breaking down each one of them. The first one is fear of poverty. Every single person has to conquer these 6 fears in order to become the best version of themselves and shake off all the garbage and cut the strings of the cord we're trying, cut the cords of the web we're trying to get out of. The fear of poverty, the fear of old age, the fear of criticism, the fear of the loss of love, the fear of ill health, fear of death, and um, politics. Politics utilize these, businesses utilize these. Basically, a lot of different people who understand this utilize this in both positive and negative ways in the world. But basically, human beings, and we're going to break into this even further, but human beings are motivated by 2 factors: the avoidance of pain and the pursuit of pleasure. But if they know that and we don't, promise, just watch, you're going to start seeing it all around you, where commercials, all kinds of stuff are going to be hitting on those points of, hey, you're going to be in pain if you don't do this, or hey, if you do this, good things are going to happen. Basically, we inherit things in 2 ways. We inherit things from physical heredity, and we inherit things from social heredity. So physical heredity are things that we are born with. We are born with a natural fight or flight system. So basically, when a situation happens where there's danger, we have 2 options. And not all the time do we decide. It's usually ingrained to be either a fighter or to be able to run. And it depends on the situation, of course, of how we're going to react. But those are the only 2 options that we have. Those are fight or flight, get in or get out. Physical heredity. And there's only two fears. I found this so interesting. Two fears that a human being is born with, and it's the fear of falling and loud sounds as a baby. Social heredity is learned data as we grow. I mean, this bad boy right inside this, underneath this cap right here, is just a supercomputer. And as we grow, we're continually learning data and what not to do or this happens, or what to do and this happens. But at the end of the day, nature has always been survival of the fittest. And the stronger beings were always feasting upon and absorbing the weaker. Even plants, like as things decompose and they die, they will be recycled and basically utilized to become bigger and better. Humans are always becoming bigger and better. They are basically the places around them, the environment around them, the things we're exposed to creates a stronger human. So, for example, a kid that goes and plays in dirt all the time is building a stronger immune system than a kid that lives in a bubble. But social heredity is where a lot of the fear starts and where a lot of our self limitations begin. And this can come in a few different ways. Social heredity, the things that we gain through our social experiences, are gained through personal experiences. They're gained from punishments growing up, laws, rules. They did this pretty cool experiment regarding social heredity where they had a group of monkeys, and they would, every time they put a ladder in this room where these monkeys were, and they put a thing of bananas at the top of the ladder. And what would happen is if the monkey would go up and touch the bananas or try to grab the bananas to eat, they would start hosing them down with cold water. And I know it's not the kindest thing in the world to do, but it's a very, very interesting experiment. If you got time, go check it out. So what would happen is eventually, after they started spraying each monkey with cold water, every time they'd go up and try to get the bananas, eventually the monkeys learned. And it's like, hey, we probably shouldn't go up there. And it's not always a good thing, but we learn this way. We probably shouldn't go up there. We might not do it. So they threw a new monkey in the mix. And the new monkey, not knowing, it's like, shit, man, there's a bunch of bananas at the top of the ladder. I'm gonna go get it. So they go up to the top of the ladder, and all the other monkeys get hosed. Next thing you know, that new monkey goes again and he gets his ass beat by the other monkeys because they don't want to get sprayed. Social heredity is such a crazy, crazy thing. We also get social heredity from storytelling. Parents telling kids what's going to happen if you take certain actions, good and bad. You'll have social heredity from schooling, from reading, from different religions, um, and social heredity from basically youth that we get. We're the young impressionable youth, and as we're growing, we take in a lot of things that we consider true, and those limiting guidelines, those rules that we establish as true as we're young, basically keep us in a little box as we continue to grow throughout our life. So, for example, young kids from about 2 to 6 years old, they're in theta waves, and theta waves is a brain wave. It's almost basically hypnotism, and from 2 to 6 years old, a lot of these children are going to accept as true what the figures of authority in their life are telling them. And it's crazy because you'll see other countries where they take these young kids and there's child soldiers. Like they'll enlist these young kids in the army, and they'll give them a gun, and then they'll go be clearing houses and doing things that kids should never even see, first of all, but doing things that adults shouldn't even be doing because they were told that was good to do, or they were influenced in a way that what they were doing was noble in a sense from the figures of authority who had bad intentions. So you can look that up. I mean, there's a lot of sick stuff used in social heredity, but it can also be used for good. But back to the theta waves, from 2 to 6 years old, basically these kids, us included, are accepting all these things as true. And after that, like as we continue to grow older, we're able to bring reason into it. The brain waves continue to change, and you interpret data differently. Your brain's able to analyze, adjust, and see: do we believe that is true? Do we not? Does it align with what we've been told, or does it not? And if it doesn't, sometimes you got to break those barriers that you've been living in to be able to expand. But the first fear that most, well, not most, every person, virtually every person is going to have to conquer is the fear of poverty. And it's interesting because in nature, um, you have like animals and you have like alpha animals, and they would prey on animals that were below their class, and whether it be they're eating them, they're beating them up for social status in that animalistic culture, whatever it may be. um, it was all alpha male at the beginning. Humans, though, the man animal, what Napoleon Hill calls it, began after economics came into play, started to preying on their other man with economics now. So now you could have anybody. You could have alpha, you could have a beta person, you could have um, anybody in that sense. If you have money, all of a sudden you have power, and you could people they'll prey on each other with flashy cars, economic status, whether it be Mr. Steal Your Girl. They're always taking because of the economic status they have. That became the new standard as soon as economics got involved. And it's a terrible, terrible thing to fear, because men, I mean, they're eager to have that status. They're eager to gain power, and they're eager to want to become better in essence, but not better as a person, better in a social and economic status. And Napoleon Hill points out, he says, so eager is man to possess wealth that he will acquire it in whatever manner he can, through legal methods if possible, and through other methods if necessary. And the fear of poverty is a terrible thing. That's crazy because it's so real. You have a lot of people who are willing to go into some dark waters to be able to gain income, because if you don't have income, if you're poor, it's like you're below somebody. It's like you're beneath other people, and it shouldn't be that way. But it's a very interesting thing in this world, that with money comes power, with money comes responsibility. And it all comes down to what are the intentions with that person, and what are they looking to accomplish with those money. But it's very interesting, because it seems as long as someone has economic status, they have a certain level of freedom and a certain level of area of movement that they can play in. Because you'll see people with big economic status that have done terrible things, but they are basically discarded. Maybe they have connections and they're paying people off so they don't go to jail. They have ability to be able to, again, move better than other people in the social system, in the economic system that we live in currently. So sometimes you'll see that people will do negative things, but if they continue to keep their wealth, it's almost like people discard it. And it's like, well, they're still where they're at. They had to do that. It's like, it's such an interesting concept. Um, but violation of the rights of others sometimes tend to be discarded with somebody who has wealth. And it's no wonder people have the fear of poverty, because they don't want to be basically preyed upon, just like an old animal wouldn't want to be eaten. So it's always running and running and in fear and in basically trapped, trapped in their own minds, because they're worried about everybody else being to prey upon them. But everybody always wants even more than enough. Something interesting about men, and when I say men, it could be females, it could be males. I'm talking about a human in general. But they're always wanting more and more than enough, even if it means taking away from others after they have more than they need. It's like people, they get greedy. They get greedy, and greed runs the world, it seems, which is so dangerous sometimes if you don't have the right intentions with the wealth that you're going to be able to gain once you conquer this fear of poverty. The second fear and third fear is fear of old age and fear of criticism. Um, why are people afraid of old age? Napoleon Hill breaks down, because old age may bring with it, guess what? Poverty, poorness, not being able to have the ability to do what we want to do, champion the causes we want to champion, and move forward and be able to move with that power. And then there's that question of old age, like, well, what if our life's work is not enough? What if we don't attain it? What if it's not good enough? What if we don't get everything we want to get done? And then the fear of criticism. The fear of criticism is crazy. Like, people are terrified to public speak. People are terrified to get up in front of people, or people are terrified to not have the newest style of clothes in, because if you don't have the newest style of clothes, you might get made fun of. or if you say something stupid, somebody's going to chastise you and be rude to you. And it's this where businesses make big money on the fear of criticism. You can look at it, Napoleon Hill points out, with the yearly styles of clothing. If you want somebody to basically feel dumb, put them in last year's style. They're not fitting in if they're their own. Nobody wants to be their own. Basically, they want to feel a part of something. They want to be a part of a group. They want to be included. There's a lot of value in including others, and these fears are a different way of learning to be able to see how we can serve others as well. Because if you know your own fears, you know other people's fears, you can basically help them to get out of those fears, get out of those limiting guidelines that we live in throughout our life. We have our little glasses, or we have our walls, our barriers that we set up for ourselves because of our fears. But the negative thing is, if you know other people's fears, you know your own fears, you can also take advantage of other people, which is being done on a daily basis by a lot of people in this world. And it's not right, but it's being done. And if you don't know, you're not able to defend yourself against it. And you're not able to serve others to help them get out of it. So it's important. You got to know yourself. The fear of the loss of love. Napoleon Hill says this is probably the most basically the most painful of all of the fears. And this fear grew out of a man's nature to steal a fellow man's mate. And by nature, all men are polygamous. It's a choice to be monotonous, basically, to be able to be with one woman and dedicate, and be able to have that old school badass style of marriage, where when two become one, and basically they become that mastermind together as a unit, and they never break that faith of loyalty, honesty, integrity. That's ideal, obviously, for growth. And we'll talk about that, why a man's wife back of him is going to be able to project a man faster than anything else to success. But by nature, all men are polygamous. And it's you understand this by nature, like elk, animals, any other animals during breeding time, they are programmed to be able to want to reproduce. Men are all programmed to want to be able to reproduce, and that's where you can get in trouble with the lustful thoughts, with all these different things. But it's such an interesting concept that we're not taught this at the beginning. And if you disagree with it, study. That's all I can say. Make up your own decision for it. We're just breaking down what we decided and what we have found in this book to basically be true through the laws of nature. Loss of love can almost cause insanity. And it brought up a thought in my mind, that a man finding his wife cheating on him, like, a lot of men wouldn't be able to handle that. And next thing you know, it's like Shawshank Redemption, where they framed the guy for murder. But it's like, you come up on your wife and you find out she's cheating on you, boom, instantly, like, you just go enraged. And a lot of men aren't able to handle that, even that idea of it. And so they run that idea, that fear of, well, what if she's cheating on me? Well, what if she has access cheating on me? Especially in today's day and age with social media, where if you start dating a female, if she's a beautiful female, she's got attention of other men. She's got options. Any beautiful female does, because you put a picture up of yourself, and if you're beautiful, you're getting a lot of likes, you're getting a lot of hits, you're getting a lot of clicks, and that attention can be so dangerous. But that's where you'll find a lot of men, and I used to be this way before I understood this fear, and before I could understand how to conquer it. I was insecure about other women. And so, interestingly enough, I wanted to find myself in more controlling situations, and how to eliminate the possibility of a woman I was dating talking to anybody else. And that, in essence, started killing me on the inside, because you can't control anybody else. But that fear is dangerous, and that result is dangerous. And it can, like he said, loss of love can almost cause insanity, if not actually do it. And then you start making actions you shouldn't do, responding in ways you shouldn't respond. And this can be a very negative and a very dangerous fear. But if you can conquer it, and if you can understand it on yourself and the others, you can grow through it, and you can become more secure in yourself, and understand that you are the guy. And if you have that self-confidence enough, if you have the ability that you can grow that self-confidence, all of a sudden when you start dating a female and you have the confidence in who you are, it's like, oh, you don't got to worry about another guy. You don't have to worry about any of this other stuff. And if somebody cheats on you, if they do you wrong, they betray you, it wasn't you. It was their personal decision to go that because of their lack of self-value, not your own lack of self-value. And that alone will be able to help you get major, major peace of mind. Um, and there's major peace with the plan, and being able to plan for self-confidence is going to be able to help you elevate tremendously in this crazy fucking world. But loss of love, guys, this shit gets wild. The fear of ill health, it ties in directly with the fear of poverty and old age. What if I don't accomplish what I need to while I have a healthy body to do so? That's another fear everybody has to conquer. And action is the only thing that's going to conquer it. If you're not taking action, you're going to sit and you're going to wallow and you're going to think and you're going to be like, well, what if I don't do it? Or what if it's not enough time? What if time is running out? What if I get sick? What if this happens? It's always the fucking what ifs, which is interesting. The next fear is the fear of death. I love this one. I used to be terrified of the fear of death. I didn't want to die. I didn't know what was going to happen to die. And Napoleon Hill points out how the heathen, basically the guy not introduced into any theology, any religions, anything like that, is less afraid of death than the people who are introduced into theology, the religions, the creeds, everything like that. Because every human is always wondering, when will I die? And when I do die, where will I go? What happens after that? And then also, where the hell did we come from? What is a human and why am I here? So you're always asking these questions. But if you have a theology, if somebody introduced you to it, whether it be your parents, whether it be school, whether it be figures of authority that you thought in your life, you're going to start believing that. And religion basically is a big play on this. And I'm a very spiritual man myself. I believe in a big G. I believe in one creator. But religions, in essence, have a very, very strong hold on the avoidance of pain and the pursuit of pleasure. It's, hey, follow this creed, embrace this faith, accept this dogma or ideology. And if you do, it'll get you to heaven. There's the pursuit of pleasure. If you don't, it'll get you to hell. If you do, it'll get you to Valhalla. If you don't, it'll get you to Helheim. It's like there's so many different religions and places where they talk about the same thing, but everything is playing on the avoidance of pain and the pursuit of pleasure. Epicurus, I love this. I love Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosophy. I love a lot of philosophers of the old Greek times. They question things and put things into such a beautiful perspective. But it really helped me not to be afraid of death, because it's like, if I am, then death is not. If I'm here, then death isn't. If death is, then I am not. And it says, so why should I fear that which can only exist when I don't? It's like, oh, wow. It's like, whether there is a heaven, whether there's not a heaven, whether there's a hell, whether there's not a hell. It's like, why should we fear it? The Vikings, those are some badass dudes. Basically, if they feared death, they wouldn't be able to join Valhalla, which was their heaven. And it's if they that's why they were able to go into battle and just be fucking nuts, just crazy. And people were like, what the hell? These guys are out of their minds. And they were taken over because they didn't fear death. Even the Spartans, they didn't fear death. And that's why they were some of the best armies in the world. If you can conquer the fear of death, and what else can stop you? Like nothing. They can take this body, it's carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, but they can't take what you stood for. They can't take your idea. They can't take the spirit, if you believe that a man is a spirit and man animal. Now, since we conquered the six fears, the next step is going to be autosuggestion. And in essence, autosuggestion is just self-talk, self-hypnotism, self-repetition, self-suggestion, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. Basically, brainwashing happens all day long, whether it be from you going and watching the news, or whether you going and looking in the mirror and telling yourself you're the greatest. If you watch the news, you're going to see all the negative stuff, and you're going to look at the world in a negative, you're going to put these negative view glasses on, and you're going to look at the world and see them through those glasses. If you are looking for all the good in every single thing, boom, you got the good seeing glasses. And through every negative situation, you can see those good things. Self-hypnotism is crazy. And the laws of success talks about how modesty, it's not our friend. Being modest, it's some bullshit if you want to really, really amplify and really, really tap into self-confidence. Because modesty allows us the excuse to sit in the back and not boldly step in the front of any situation, because he thinks it's going to save his ego. He won't be criticized, all kinds of different fears again. And um, you have people that basically they loved themselves and they're willing to step out and call themselves the best, and eventually after they talk to themselves enough, they worked as well as they're working, they're taking the physical action and they're taking the mental action, they're taking the speaking action of I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm working the hardest, nobody's working harder than me, I'm going to be able to beat anybody. That creates the people like the Conor McGregors, the Floyd Mayweathers, the Muhammad Ali's, the I am the greatest. Floyd Mayweather, he thinks he's the greatest too. And he says, if you don't think you're the greatest in this sport, he's like, you got to get in a different sport, because you have to think you're the greatest in order to succeed. It's interesting because he's like, whether you're paying to watch me get knocked out or you're paying to watch me knock somebody else out, you're still paying people. And you, it's crazy because you have that own fear. So you project it on them, and you're either paying to watch him get knocked out and to lose, or paying to watch him win because you admire what he has, or you're a little jealous of what he has because you haven't conquered that fear yet. It's such an interesting thing. But if we always use modesty and we're worried about what other people are going to think, then we're going to remain in the background. And it's absolutely crazy. It's like Jesus had haters and he didn't even do any wrong. It's like, so if we're imperfect, if we aren't that, if we're just dirt, we're a dirt body, and again the carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, then it's like, how can we expect not to have haters? It's like, you got to understand you're going to be able to have those, but if you have that self-hypnotism going on and you believe that you're the best, or you believe you're valuable enough, or you believe you're worth it, then it doesn't matter what other people say. It's like, fuck what everybody says. Unless it's your team and they're not building you up, it doesn't matter what they say. Because most hate, when people hate on you, is them projecting their own hurt feelings onto you or their own insecurities onto you because they haven't conquered that goal yet. Hurt people hurt people, and healed people heal people. Think you're the best, know you're the best, and if you don't know yet, start talking to yourself, telling yourself you're the best. Eventually, you're going to start believing it, because the subconscious doesn't know the difference between a penny and $1,000,000. It doesn't know the difference between a truth and a lie. Eventually, even if you tell yourself a lie long enough, you'll start to believe it. And that's a scary but also beautiful thing. Some people who are, Napoleon Hill talks about this, being born to poor parents. If you're only around it growing up, you see only poverty, you're hearing talks of poverty, everything begins to become so true that eventually you're just like, you know what? This is just how my life is. The people at the top, they just got there, but they can do it, but I can't. They're able to make it, but well, I don't know if I can. All my parents were this way. They've been working a 9 to 5 for their whole life. I got to work a 9 to 5 for my whole life. That rich stuff isn't for me. And people subconsciously and unknowingly tell themselves this all day long. And then they wonder why they're exactly where they think they are going to be. And basically, once you permit and you allow that belief to be true, it becomes a dominating thought. And as soon as you're dominating thought, you hypnotized yourself, you brainwashed yourself into believing that so much. That's what your body and everything else, your actions, start moving towards. And that's what you continue to become. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Self-confidence has to be used like a muscle, where it atrophies and withers away. If you're not using your muscles, if you're not going to the gym, they're not going to be as strong. You're not going to be as toned. It's not going to be as defined. And that's the same with self-confidence. You have to continue to practice. You have to continue to basically dominate your mind with that. Because every time you go out into the world, there's a lot of people who are sad. There's a lot of people who are angry. There's a lot of people who don't believe in themselves. And then you have the news and all this. You hear every single negative story in the world instead of the good. And eventually you start, again, looking through those glasses, and you're not as confident. So you have to work at self-hypnotism, at self-brainwashing into a positive direction. And another thing too, it's like the fear grows. The more that you aren't confident, or the more that you run away from elite confidence, the fear gets bigger. You're feeding one inherently all the time, all the time. And this is exactly why I'm fighting again next year, because there's just something weird about it. I find I feel like my mind's always going 10,000 miles an hour. And the only time I'm able to completely slow down and find peace and breathe is when my mind is fully occupied and my body, and the adrenaline is high, because it feels like everything's slow motion. I'm able to move in space without any distractions on the outside. But, and then you go into the fighting, and I love it. That's where I live. It's like, it's a scary place to be though, because again, you have the fear of criticism. What if I get knocked out in front of friends and family? What if they don't think I'm as good if I lose? You have all those little fears that you have to conquer. And it's like, they started talking. That little bitch voice, the demon, that guy started talking. And it's like, all right, I ain't gonna let you talk anymore. So I'm gonna face the fear and go right into it. And that's why I have to fight again. Not because I have to prove anything to anybody else, but I just have to conquer those little fears so that my self-confidence is at its elite peak. Because when my self-confidence is at its elite peak, I can do anything I want to do. I can accomplish whatever I want to accomplish because I start taking actions toward it. And if I don't take actions toward it, the fear starts growing again. It's like, well, you won that fight, but what about the next one? It's like, can you do it again? It's like, damn straight I can do it again. Let's go. And you have to conquer those fears. Everybody has their own little different scenarios where those 6 basic fears come out. What's your scenario? Again, as soon as you know yourself, you're going to be able to know others. Once you know others, it's a fast track. You're learning a lot really quickly to level up. You're upgrading your character. That Grand Theft Auto guy's his bank account's getting bigger and bigger. His basically skill set's getting bigger and bigger. His endurance, the basically in any other sports game, his attributes are getting better and better and better. You're training them. Inherited wealth can honestly be one of the worst things to ever give somebody who hasn't earned it. The last thing I want in my entire life is money or wealth that I have not earned. Because if I haven't earned it, I'm not going to be able to keep it. Jim Rohn, he'll say, if somebody gives you $1 million, you better become a millionaire real fast. And inherited wealth often leads to the loss of self-confidence because you never attained the wealth ourselves. So lottery winners, they've done the studies where after they've won the lottery, they're more depressed than when they didn't have the lottery. Kids born into wealth, you'll find this a lot of times where kids are born into wealth and then they don't have that fulfillment because they didn't earn it themselves. There's just something about working for something, earning something, and getting the reward from it that is so much more satisfying than just something being handed or given to you. And it also um, allows you to basically find skills and find creativeness and imaginatory ideas that help you overcome these obstacles. If every obstacle's been overcome for you, you never developed that strength. And in life, inherently, we're going to get beat up by it. It's a rough thing if you let it beat you up. So I don't ever want, again, any money that I haven't earned. That's the worst thing I could ever ask, and that's the worst thing I'd want on my kid. But basically, he has this story where Napoleon Hill worked for this guy as an assistant, and the guy's son, the guy was big business owners, and the guy's sons were off to college. And every week, Napoleon Hill would write $100 check and send it out to these 2 kids. And he's sitting there writing these checks for these kids. He's poor at the time, and he's like, "Man, this is fucked up. I'm sending this money to these kids. What would it be like if I had this money? What would I do with it?" But he didn't earn it yet. And these kids, as they continued to grow, they had great high-paying positions at the dad's business owner company, and said, "Hey, you can come along." And eventually, with their $100 that they had extra that they didn't earn, they weren't fulfilled. They didn't have that value, so they started slipping. Here, the money's going into alcohol. Now the money's going into drugs. Now the money's going into the next distraction, because they never found that purpose that they had to work for and strive for. It was just given to them. And every being in nature, at least, like every animal that grows, every plant, every living organism, the strong will survive. It's always been survival of the fittest, and it always will be. And if you're not pushing, and every fittest person, every strongest animal, every strongest plant had to go through struggle to get there. Like I would never not wish struggle upon me, because I know every single time I'm struggling, I'm getting better, I'm getting stronger. I am putting stress on the muscle, and so it's building. I'm putting stress on the confidence muscle, so it's building continuously. Disadvantages are the advantages, baby. This is where the money's at right here. The disadvantage allows us to unlock qualities in ourselves that would stay asleep if we never had to struggle. I had to work. Oh, this is what he said. Uh, do not have this mentality if you ever have kids. You don't know what you are wishing upon them, unfortunately. The people who have the mindset, I had to work hard when I was young, but I shall see to it that my kids have an easier time. And it could be a terrible gift. I want my family and my kids to be able to know, hey, I always got your back, and I'll help you through hard times. And no matter what, you'll have somebody to fall on to lift you back up when you do fall. But you got to get out there and fall. You got to get out there and try. Nothing can't just be given to you. You got to earn it. And that's going to allow them to continue to grow and continue to have that self-confidence built in them. Because if you give them an easy time, if you give the muscle an easy time, it's going to be weak. And we don't want weak kids. There's that book, I think it's Hard Times Create Strong Men and Easy Times Create Weak Men. And that's so true. It really does. It's just like the muscle. The strongest men had to go through the most stuff. The lion with the most scars usually is the one on the top. Forced idleness is far worse than being forced to work. So basically, being lazy and being lazy, a lot of people will never even get to tap into the potential or the power that they truly have, because they get stuck in that laziness. It's far worse for a kid to be able to be allowed to be lazy than a kid being forced to work hard and do their best, because that's going to do a few things for them. It's going to breed temperance, self-control, and strength. And I tell people this all the time, and a lot of people don't understand who haven't done athletics. It's like, I learned more in athletics about life in sports than I did in actual school. And it's because you're learning principles, you're learning how to accomplish and how to win. You're learning real life skills instead of memorize this, and then if you turn it in correctly, you'll get a A, B, C, whatever it may be. You'll get a grade on it. But eventually, the people get weaker and weaker and weaker because they're not utilizing their own strengths. They're not overcoming those challenges. And I find myself doing this too. It's like, once I get comfortable, it's like, I'm good. Like, I'm chilling. I'm good. I can relax. I can eat. I can watch Netflix. I can play video games. And my goals can wait for a little bit. I'm comfortable. It's the scariest fucking place to be ever, is comfortability. Because as soon as we get comfortable, growth stops. But it's like, in uncomfortability, it's always uncomfortable, but a human being thrives in uncomfortability. That's what we're made for. I mean, we're built for the fucking struggle, hands down. So don't wish it were easier, wish you were better, like Jim Rohn says. Les Brown and Mr. Butterball. So my one of my first videos I ever watched in self-development was Les Brown, and it was a video called "It's Not Over Until I Win." Badass video, about 30 minutes long, recorded in the Georgia Dome. If you can look that one up, it's a great one. But basically, Les Brown wanted to get a job at a disc jockey station, so a radio station, and the head guy that he needed to get the approval to work for him was Mr. Butterball. And he goes down and he's like, "Hey man, are you hiring? Do you have any jobs? I want to be a disc jockey. I want to be a DJ." And he's like, "No, we don't have any spots. We're not hiring." Then the next day, Les Brown went home and he told his mentor, "Man, like, he told me no." And the mentor says, "Hey, most people have to be asked multiple times before they'll say yes." And that's interesting enough, because most sales, if you look up sales statistics, are made between the 8th and the 12th exposure. But the amount of people that are willing to ask for the order or ask for the sale 8 to 12 times is very, very, very tiny. It's less, I believe it was less than 10%. You'll have to look up the exact statistic, but it's a very low number. And so just continue to be persistent. So Les Brown went back the next day and he's like, "Hey, are you guys open? And are you guys hiring?" He's like, "No, I told you yesterday. What are you talking about?" So he leaves. He comes back the next day. He's, hey, are you guys opening? Are you hiring? He's like, no, what the hell? Like, I told you we're not hiring. And he's like, why do you keep asking me? And he's like, well, I didn't know if somebody died or somebody got sick or somebody left or somebody quit. Maybe a new opening came up. And he kept up this persistence until finally he's like, it was a few more days down the road. And he's like, Mr. Butterball, do you got any openings? Are you hiring? I want to be a disc jockey. And he's like, you know what? Go get me some coffee. And right then he had the job. And he started to be able to have his foot in the door for the opportunity he was looking for. But we have to continue to be persistent. And if you stop at that first failure, if we wish it were easier instead of wishing we were better, then he never would have got the job. Continue working towards what you're going to get, no matter how hard it's going to be. Because in essence, when you go through that hard thing, you are going to become better, stronger, and wiser for it and be able to accomplish more. Napoleon Hill breaks down this guy where there's a group of people selling advertisement space, and there was 12 unsellable people. And the one guy, he went and he sat in a park, wrote down the 12 people that were unsellable, and he sat in a park for like 1,000 reps in his mind, meditating. Hey man, these guys are going to buy advertising space from me before the end of the month, over and over and over. And he did a similar thing to what Les Brown did. And he went to these 12 people, and he started selling them, which was beautiful. But there was one guy who was just giving him a hard time. He was the unsellable guy. And he kept coming to him, hey, can I get advertisement space? For like 30 days, it was like a month straight, he continued to go and ask him to sell for advertisement space. And eventually, after a month, the guy that he was trying to sell says, hey, why are you wasting your time trying to sell me on this advertisement space? I'm not going to give it to you. And he's like, you have no idea. Me spending 30 days trying to get you to buy this advertisement space, it did not waste any of my time. I learned 30 new ways of how somebody could try to deny or object why they wouldn't want advertising space. So you're helping me learn how to overcome these objections and what to look forward in the next sale. But more importantly, you're helping me develop my self-confidence, which I have been working to grow. And the guy was taken aback. He's like, what the hell is this kid doing? This guy's just so persistent. And the unsellable guy said, you know what? I have to admit, you've been teaching me a little bit in the law of persistence. And that law that you've showed me, or that new lesson that you've showed me in persistence, I think is worth enough value that I'll buy some advertising space. And boom, he made the sale because he was persistent. So ask for hard challenges. Ask for, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he'll talk about how the weights, it never gets lighter. The weights just increase. As you get stronger, the work never gets easier. The weights just increase because you get stronger. Now, a woman back of a man and his purpose. We talked a little bit about this in the mastermind. Napoleon Hill says Henry Ford's wife was basically more important to his success than Henry Ford was in general. And if you go research or even look at Dee Devlin and Conor McGregor went from nothing to something to everything, boom, almost overnight. And at the end of the day, Dee Devlin was the one who believed in him from the beginning, would let him borrow her car to go to training, helped with his food regimen. If he came home and Conor had his ass beat, it's like, she's like, man, I believe in you. You can do it. You got this. You're going to be the greatest. Because he started talking that he wanted to be the greatest. He's going to conquer. And he had someone to help solidify and help speak into his ear, not the bitch voice of where you can't do it. What if you're going to be criticized? What if you get knocked out? What if this happens? What if you lose? He had a wife back of him saying, hey, you got this. You can do it. You're good enough. I believe in you. And just that alone can take a man from 0 to 100. Henry Ford's wife wrote this thing for Henry Ford, and I didn't know it was her until I started listening to some of his lectures, and he referenced it in another place. But the thing that Henry Ford would keep at his desk to continuously look at over and over and over each day was this right here. It says, I believe in myself. I believe in others that work with me. I believe in my employer. I believe in my friends. I believe in my family. And I believe that God will lend me everything with which I need to succeed if I do my best to earn it through faithful and honest service. I believe in prayer, and I will never close my eyes and sleep without praying for divine guidance to do, and that I will be patient with other people and tolerant with those who do not believe as I do. I believe that success is the result of indulgent effort that does not depend upon luck or sharp practices. Man, I copied and pasted this, and there's some spelling errors, so apologies in advance. But I do not that does not depend upon luck or sharp practices or double crossing friends, fellow men, or my employer. I believe that I will get from life exactly what I put into it. Therefore, I'll be conducting myself towards others as I would want them to conduct themselves towards me. I will not slander those who do not like what I will. I will not slight my work no matter what I see others doing. I will render the best service of which I am capable of doing because I have, man, you know what? I'm going to have to change this in the future because this is not the full one I thought it was. But I will not slight my work in the slightest, and I will render the best service of which I am capable of doing because I have dedicated myself to succeed in life. And I know success is the result of conscientious and efficient effort. And finally, I will forgive those who offend me because I realize that I should sometimes offend others and I will need their forgiveness, which is so, so wild because it's like going through every day. If you're seeing this, and me included, I'm not perfect. And sometimes I do offend others big time. I'm a strong personality, and sometimes I'm going to need their forgiveness. And if I want other people's forgiveness, I damn well better be willing to forgive. So go look this up though. I'll put, if you guys want, I'll put a different, the correct version. I thought this was it, just a quick glance and looking, but they put some wrong words in there that aren't the exact same as the book. Now the self-confidence formula. This is where the fucking money's at, and I say this to I have this next to my definite attainment, next to my expectations of what I'm going to attain in my life. I have this right next to it so I can read it, see it. I have recorded myself saying it so that if I don't have time, boom, I can listen to myself, because inherently your voice is a trusted voice. And if that trusted voice is continuously going into the ear, for some reason, subconscious is able to, old subby is able to internalize it a little bit better and a little bit easier. So I encourage you to take this and utilize it every day. This one is for sure going to be words from the exact book, not any typos. But do this morning and night if possible. As soon as you wake up and right before bed. That's when the subconscious is most open to suggestion. Let's get a little water break real quick. Shout out to my girl Jamie from Whole Sun Wellness, giving me the mushrooms from my head and my water. Mushrooms are the wave of the future. Mushrooms and juice, you guys. Cold pressed juice and mushrooms. But self-confidence formula. First, I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, aggressive, and continuous action toward its attainment. Second, I realize that the dominating thoughts of my mind eventually reproduce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my mind for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to be by creating a mental picture of this person and then transforming that picture into reality through practical service. If you can hold it in your hand, if you can hold it in your head, guys, you can hold it in your hand. Third, I know that through the principle of autosuggestion, which again is self-hypnotism, self-suggestion, self-repeated phrases and thoughts, but I know through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of realizing it. Therefore, I shall devote 10 minutes daily to demanding, not hoping, demanding of myself the development of the factors named in the 15 lessons of the laws of success, or demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. Fourth, I have clearly mapped out and written down a description of my definite purpose in life for the coming 5 years. I have set a price on my services for each of these 5 years, a price that I will earn and receive through the strict application of the principle of efficient, satisfactory service, which I will render in advance. That's where the money is right there. Render in advance. I'm going to give before I expect to receive. I have to put in work before I expect to be rewarded. I can't just be rewarded and it be a good thing. A bee has to go out and get the pollen before the honey can be made. Everything has to be done beforehand. The service has to be provided. Fifth, I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction which does not benefit from all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to me the forces that I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me because I will first serve them. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity, because I know that a negative attitude towards others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. I will sign my name to this formula, commit it to memory, and repeat it aloud once a day with full faith that I will gradually influence my entire life so that I will become a successful and happy man working in my chosen field of endeavor. Now, if you gonna want to go print this out, literally just look up Napoleon Hill self-confidence formula. There's a few different versions of it. Find the one that best fits what your goals are. And again, morning and nighttime, every single morning, every single night. Dominate the mind with this self-hypnotism. Because if not, you're gonna go out and they're gonna start hypnotizing to, well, hey, you need this makeup product because you might be ugly without it. Hey, you better get super skinny because you better get super lean because if you're fat, you might not be loved. It's the craziest shit that marketing people capitalize on. Or hey, you're too skinny. You better eat some more. It's like there's always that pressure of you may not be good enough, so let's capitalize on it. And they're going to brainwash you, so you got to be more active and fight your own war and build your own soldiers and build your own fortress so that all of these negative stuff, they don't affect you. Just rub the dirt off your shoulder, it's gone. Napoleon Hill uses the reference, it slides off, like any criticism or any challenges slide off my back like water off of a duck's back. It's just gone, it doesn't matter. But self-hypnotism, guys, it's real. The Power of Habit. So there's a book actually called The Power of Habit by a guy named Charles Duhigg, and he says that 40% of all of our decisions each day are based out of habit. You don't even think about 40% of your day. You're just doing it. You just go. And he says that you can never get rid of a habit, but you can only replace it. And that's according to his book, which is a great book to check out if you haven't read or studied anything about habits. But Napoleon Hill breaks down that habit grows out of environment, and doing the same thing over and over, or thinking thoughts over and over, create brain grooves. So Tony Robbins talks about this a lot, anchoring and neurons. So basically, once you do something, even learning to walk, learning physical movements, the more you do it, the more neurons get connected with doing it. So it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and easier to feel a certain way, easier to take a certain action, and it gets faster because it's just like a record player. If you have a record, you have the grooves in it. And once you have those grooves, it creates the sound. But if you don't like where the grooves are going, you got to scratch it up, buff it, and rewrite your own grooves. And brain grooves are just as important. So you have basically habits are created by any environmental thing that happens. If it happens over and over and over and over again. So it's like if you see something happen over and over again, eventually you're going to think that's true. If you hear the same thing over and over again from multiple different sources, you're like, okay, yeah, that must be true then. But olfactory, and I learned this from Jordan Belfort actually. Smart dude, very smart guy. I was blessed to be able to learn a lot from him when I was working, but he wrote a book, The Way of the Wolf, and mentioned olfactory anchoring in The Way of the Wolf, where he uses they're called boom booms. It's a little smelling stick with like there's peppermint, there's all kinds of different stuff. But olfactory anchoring through the nose is the only thing that skips the hypothalamus in the brain. So basically, hypothalamus is a filtering system. That's why as soon as you smell something, it'll take you back to when grandma made you a chicken noodle soup when you were 3 years old. Boom, like that. It's like you just teleport into a movie of eating that chicken noodle soup. Now, you can create your own brain grooves by anchoring itself. So, for example, let's say I'm about to I listen to a hype up song and that song puts me in a certain mood. Or I had a fight and the song was playing in the background, a negative fight with a spouse or something, and a song was playing in the background. Every single time I hear that song, I'm going to start thinking of that fight that I had with my spouse. So if you have to be able to control these things, once you understand that anything that we take in through our five senses, any data that we receive, any experience that we have is going to start a pattern. And if you continue that pattern, it's going to create the brain groove. If you continue that brain groove, the neuron connections in the brain get stronger and stronger and stronger, and it gets easier to feel that way. It gets easier to look at the world through those lenses. But we can never get rid of those habits. So we got to replace them with different views, with different glasses. After a habit's established, it's going to direct our bodily activity automatically. And using this, we can create our own self-confidence. So after a habit's established, it's like most people don't even think about brushing their teeth in the morning anymore because they've done it for so many years, for so many days. Boom, it's just something they do. It directs the bodily activity. Hey, I need to clean my teeth. I know I need to clean my teeth. I'm going to brush my teeth for the first time. The next day, hey, I need to clean my teeth. I know I need to clean my teeth. Boom, so I'm going to brush my teeth for the second time. Over and over and over and over. And then eventually you're not even thinking, hey, I need to clean my teeth. I know I need to clean my teeth. You just hop out the shower, boom, put the toothpaste on the toothbrush and start brushing your teeth. And you don't even think about it anymore. So you got to first dissect yourself and analyze yourself. What habits do we currently have? Is it drugs? Is it alcohol? I'm an addictive personality myself, so I've had to overcome a lot of these things, and I still struggle in different areas. But you have to be able to understand that repeated motion over and over and over will dictate our lives. And if we don't write our own habits, if we don't scratch up that record that's already been done through the social heredity, through the physical heredity, or the limiting walls that we blocked ourselves in, if we don't start doing that, if we don't write our own record, 40% of our life is just drifting. Just whatever happens, happens. And we just went that way and we're like, well, why did we end up? I didn't want to be here. How did I get? We become a creature of circumstance instead of a creator of circumstance. But anchoring, that's going to be another talk for sure, where you can create your own anchors. You can set yourself up to feel a certain way. That's why fighters have a certain fight song. And boom, it comes on. They get in the zone. It's ready to kill. It's kill mode. Kill or be killed. Or again, olfactory anchoring. You smell something, takes you right back to somewhere. Now, maybe it's like when you, or seeing, everybody understands this one. If there's a piece of food that anybody's ever got sick and thrown up, there's a time period where it's like if they see it, smell it, look at it, hear about it, it's like, oh, their stomach starts getting upset right out of the gate. It's like, oh, I don't want to eat that food for a while. Habits happen this way. So basically, the thought of habits is this: voluntarily and by force if necessary. If you got to force yourself to start creating your habits, direct your efforts and your thoughts along a desired line until you formed a habit that's going to take over you. And then continue to do it over and over and over. And then eventually you're going to voluntarily direct your efforts along the same line. So force yourself until you automatically and excitedly start doing the thing you want to do. It's hard at first. It really is. But next thing you know, it gets easier and easier and easier. It's hard at first because you have to create that neuron connection. You have to create that groove in the brain. But just like the phonograph or the record, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Every time the needle passes through it, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And eventually it's never going to slip out. I had a conversation with one of my buddies, and he was talking about a example of sledding. Like if you have a hill and a snowy hill, if somebody goes down with the sled, it's like eventually that little groove of snow gets so deep, you can't even wiggle out of it. You're just, you stay down that little chute, boom, 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 over and over and over. So you have to be able to write your own sled trails, or they're going to take over and you're never going to get out, and you're going to be wondering, what the hell? How come I'm where I'm at? How come I'm not as confident as I want to be? Because we never took the time to see what our habits were and write our own habits. We became the creature of circumstance instead of the creator of circumstance. Dexter Yeager, he says experience divides the winners from the losers. And experience is going to be creating those new habits for yourself instead of basically doing the habits that everybody told you you need to do for whatever reason it might be. And this is one of my favorite lines, and I've adopted it as well. He says, I have a master's degree and PhD in life. I'm never going back to college ever. I've learned more from self-education from honestly this book than most colleges could teach us. And that's a beautiful thing. It's like I'm always learning and I will always have more to learn. But I want to be able to take advice and take understanding from people who are either where I want to go or on the path to where I want to go. So take that into consideration. The unfolding of the mind. Napoleon Hill talks about how the human mind is constantly unfolding, like the petals of a flower, until it reaches the maximum development. What this maximum is and where it ends, or whether it ends at all or not, is unanswerable. But the degree of unfoldment seems to vary according to the nature of the individual and the degree to which he keeps his mind at work. The best way I can explain this is basically the door to knowledge is only opened to the ones who knock on it. If you're not looking for something, you're not going to see it. It's just like the car. You're activating the reticular activating system, the RAS, the RAS in the brain. And if you are looking for a certain car, finally you make the decision on what one you want. Before, you never seen it driving on the road. Now, as soon as you make the decision of what one you want, you see it everywhere. It goes the same with your goals and your understanding of success. You could be listening to a song you've heard 18,000 times. You may have memorized that song. You may have been singing it for years. And then eventually you're singing it, and one time you say something or it says something, and you're like, holy shit, I just understood what he said. It's been years and years and years of hearing it, but we weren't listening. And Bob Proctor, he has this abundance meditation on YouTube. It's like 23 minutes. And I've meditated to it and listened to it literally hundreds of times. And I used to listen to it every day. And then just 2 weeks ago, as I've continued to grow my mind and unfold the mind and look for more growth, I heard it again. And it didn't seem any different until the very end. Boom. He said one thing. He's like, abundance is going to come into your life. And you are going to help abundance come into everybody else's life. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never heard that part. Where did that come from? I've heard this thing over and over and over and over and over, but that was the most significant part. You're gonna work to cause abundance in everybody else's life. The secret of living is giving. And so I'm like, man, I haven't been doing that. It's like I've wanted all these good things to happen for me, but everybody that I've come across, have I really been investing and wanting abundance to come into their life? And if I can now, I'm looking for opportunities. How can I make this person's life better? How can I make this person's life better? How can I build this person up? How can I make them a little bit happier or a little bit more elevated than when they first came into contact with me? And ever since I started focusing on that, crazy fucking doors have been opening. It's been unreal. Jesus talks about, well, basically he always talked in stories. And he always talked in stories because you can reach it at any different level. So it could be a beginner person hearing the story. A story paints a picture in somebody's mind. I love communication. I love sales. And that's basically what I've known throughout my life. And most people and artists, they'll paint a picture with a paintbrush. A public speaker, a good orator, or a great salesman is able to paint a picture in another person's head with the words that they're using. And I find that absolutely beautiful because I wasn't ever the best drawer in the world, but I can paint a picture with words. And it's something to consider, that these stories and these pictures that you're, or these movies that you're directing in other people's minds, can be reached at any level. So it could be somebody just looking to get on the path of self-confidence, and they're going to see the story from this angle. Then somebody that's been working on self-confidence, they're going to see the story from this angle. And then somebody that's been so self-confident, they've been doing it for years, they're going to see the story from this angle. But at each stage of growth, they're going to see it differently. It's the same story 100% of the time, but you're going to get new gold nuggets out of it each time as your mind continues to unfold, as we prepare our minds to understand further and understand more. Because at the end of the day, everything is simple. And when I say that, simple isn't um, not complex. Simple is, there's a lot of complexity that goes into simplicity. So I use this example. This phone right here, I could use voice command and be like, hey, call my brother the Dominator. And starts calling. Dominic picks up and he's like, hey, what's up? That was simple. All I had to do was say, hey, call the Dominator. And as soon as I say it, it's going to call it. But there was hours, there was years, there was so much time of coding, of understanding, of developing the app, of developing the signal to be able to reach across. There's so much complexity that goes into simplicity. Or a watch. A watch is very simple. It's two hands, two dials, and they go around a circle with numbers on it. It's like, that's very, very simple. But if you look at any Swiss made watch, it's like there's so many gears, machines, and complexity within that simple machine. All it does is tell time. A remote, if I'm going to go press a remote and turn the TV on, it's like, that's simple. I press power and it turns on. A kid could do it, any kid. But the complexity of what had to be built for that remote to connect to the TV, and how the remote works, and how this button exactly precisely turns the trigger of the on and off switch is complex. Or a light switch. I go into my room, boom, flip the light on, lights on, flip the light off, lights off. But behind that is cords and wires going through the walls, connecting the light bulb to the actual switch. And when the switch is on, it's not attached to the electricity. Boom. When it's off, it's not attached to the electricity. When it's on, it is attached. There's a lot of complexity behind the simplicity. So simple isn't always easy. Einstein says if you don't know a subject well enough, and I don't know if he says 5, 6, or 7, but 5, 6, or 7-year-old, a young kid, if you can't teach it to a young kid, you don't know the subject well enough. And that's what we're working on together here, is getting all of this old language, this 1920s language, and all of these concepts into a simple level so we can all understand them together and all elevate together faster than we ever have. Where thoughts prevail, power may be found. There's this kid I went to high school with. His name was Hunter Woodhull. Napoleon Hill references another guy, basically, that was born without legs, and he was able to accomplish some big things. So it reminded me of this guy named Hunter Woodhull. And it says, ailments don't slow us down with the right level of confidence. And Hunter Woodhull basically, he's a track runner. He was a Paralympic athlete. He's an absolute mental giant. He's a beast up here, and he didn't have legs. He has to run on prosthetics, on the blades, and this man's a monster. It does. He's fun about it. He has a blast with it. He loves himself for who he is, and that's why he's able to conquer that obstacle. Some people, they'd be like, you know what? I wasn't born with the most healthy of legs, so I can't go run. Right there, they lost. Hunter could have chose that path, and I'm sure it's been that voice, that demon has been saying, hey, what if you can't do it? You might not be able to. But he conquered that, and he said, you know what? Despite everything that's going on, I'm going to do it. I'm going to run. And he's great at it. He's absolutely incredible. He went to the Paralympics. Like, this man's a beast, a mental giant. And we have to become mental giants. Tech Nine has a beautiful song about being a mental giant. I tell everybody I'm a 5'7" giant. I ain't the biggest human being in the world physically, but I tell you what, I got power coming out of here. And I had to hear it from my preschool teacher when I graduated preschool. She said, Teague, dynamite comes in small packages. I was like, woo, that's me right there. That's me right there. And I just want to be able to urge you guys to start building that mental giant within you. The man in the mirror. There was this guy down on his luck. Napoleon Hill had just wrote like a little journal, and it was on self-confidence. And the guy that was down on his luck found it, and he comes to his office. He says, hey, I'm looking for the author of this book. He's like, well, I'm the author. It's like, man, I think you're the only one that can help me. This negative thing, this negative thing, this negative thing, and this negative thing's been going on in my life, and I'm just about to the breaking point. I don't know if I can go on any further. And Napoleon Hill, he's like, well, I don't know if I can help you, because he wasn't looking very good. He's like, I don't know if I can help you, but I'll at least listen. And after I hear your story, if I can help you, I'll let you know. If I can't, I'll at least tell you. And the guy's like, okay, so this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And he listened to him, and Napoleon Hill's looking at him, and he's like, damn. He's like, I can't do anything to help you. And the guy's like, oh shit. He's just defeated. He's like, man, well, that about settles it then. That about does it. And he's like, but I can introduce you to a man who can help you if you're interested in meeting him. And he's like, oh shit, like absolutely, get me to him. Tell me, who is it? Show me. And so boom, Napoleon Hill grabs him, and he takes him over to a mirror. And he says, let me introduce you to a guy who can change your whole life for you. And basically he realized, and he started sobbing. He started bawling. And Napoleon Hill's like, man, the message really hit home. The guy leaves, and Napoleon Hill didn't think he was ever going to see him again. I believe the next couple days is what the book said. He goes, and he was walking on the street, and he sees the guy. He didn't even recognize him at first. He's all suited up, haircut, clean, walking with his chest up and his shoulders back and his head up, and feeling confident. And he's like, man, you're not going to believe what happened. He's like, after I left your office, I was able to meet this guy, and I told him exactly my story, but what I wanted to become and what I wanted to do. And the guy was willing to hire me, and he gave me a cash advance to help send money to my family, to help get me this suit, and to be able to start working with the right positive mental attitude. And he owed it all to Napoleon Hill, is what he said, but really he owed it all to the man in the mirror, because he learned a lesson in self-reliance. And that's a very, very powerful story. Where are we limiting our own selves? Are we stopping our own selves just because we don't believe in ourselves enough? And so we don't take the challenge, we don't take the action to accomplish something we need to, that we know we should. We see it in our head, but we're too afraid to do it. You don't see stuff in your head for no reason. Like, other people can't see what you can see. You see stuff in your head, there's a reason for it. And that's a different conversation, but it's not, it's almost divine in my opinion. um Napoleon Hill, and I say this all the time because I love it, but day by day, in every way, I'm becoming more successful. And a guy seen this hanging on Napoleon Hill's wall, and he's like, do you really believe in that stuff? You really think that's going to help you? That's going to change everything that's going on? And Napoleon Hill's like, well, of course not. It only got me out of working in the coal mines, and it allowed me to serve upwards of 100,000 people. And instantly the guy's like, oh shit, maybe this stuff does work, because he again was just projecting one of those 6 basic fears on Napoleon Hill, because he didn't believe he could do it. He didn't believe every day in every way he was becoming more successful. And so he wanted to basically criticize Napoleon for it. And again, hurt people hurt people. Most hate is from people who aren't in love with themselves. And that's a rough thing. So it's like, you can't always be mad at somebody who is hurtful or hateful towards you. In essence, we kind of have to pity them, because if we're growing in our self-confidence, if we're growing in our levels, then we know what they're going through. We know ourselves. We know why they're doing what they're doing. And now it's our turn to be able to uplift them, or at least plant a seed to help them realize that they don't have to feel the way that they're feeling. Because again, healed people heal people, and hurt people hurt people. So never be ashamed of positive affirmations or self-brainwashing in a positive way. Beware, though, you might be self-brainwashing yourself in a negative way. So don't let that voice take over. And there's a difference between demanding success and merely wishing for it. Wishing, probably not ever going to happen. You demand it. You start taking action toward it. You know it's going to happen. You have faith it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Know thyself. Shakespeare says, he says, to thine own self be true. And the goal is to become a more positive and aggressive human being. And aggressive is the word I want to point out here, because people have said in the past, Teague, you're too intense. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, what do you mean I'm too intense? Like, that's how I've accomplished all the stuff that I've accomplished up to this point. I don't want to get less intense, because I'm going to start getting weaker and weaker and weaker and more scared and more fearful. It's like, that's terrifying. It's like, damn straight, I'm intense. And that's who I am. And love yourself for who you are. Know yourself for who you are. And if you got to continue to be more aggressive, Be more aggressive. It's okay, as long as you're having the right intentions behind it. The impact of role models. Basically, people can speak belief into you, and it only takes one. So be aware you might be the one speaking to somebody else and influencing them in a positive way. So always speak kindly and always build others up. The example I have is when I first met a few multimillionaires in some network marketing days, and this guy gave me a letter. And the letter, well, no, I apologize. I wrote my letter. I wrote the journal of what he said to me that day while we went to an event of a speaking seminar. And he's like, "Hey, Teague, I know you're doing really well in sales, selling car and home insurance right now, and you're making decent money as a young man, but I really think you got what it takes to be big." And just that he said that, I'm like, this guy's a multimillionaire. Like, he didn't have to pull me aside and say that, and I have to write that into my letter and into my journal now. I'm looking at him like, what the hell? Why did he say that? And just because he said that, I don't even know if he remembers. He doesn't have to remember. But he put that seed of belief inside of my mind. And I'm like, whoa, maybe I can be big. Maybe I can be great. What if I can do it? What if I can make it? I'm good enough. I'm valuable. I'm worth it. All of a sudden, the whole world changed and so many doors started opening up for us. So just be aware. A candle that lights another candle loses nothing. And if you can go around igniting people, you never know the one person that you might have changed their entire life because you said one sentence to them. It happens all the time. It's like, imagine if the biggest role model, let's say your biggest role model in the world was Tom Brady, and you were a young quarterback coming up, and he says, "Man, you got a great arm. I think you can do some big stuff." The first time I met Jordan Belfort, he's like, "You're a natural salesman." As soon as he said that, I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Wow, maybe I can do some good things. Maybe I can sell people on becoming the best version of themselves." And then right then and there, planted a seed to start working and developing, not Teague, but the Vigilante, where he believes in himself wholeheartedly. He's not scared of criticism. He's not scared of fear. He's not scared of life. He's living through inside out, and he's not letting the outside affect him on the inside. Now, others are only going to believe in you when you believe in yourself. And it's people, they can smell it a mile away. If you're a male, and if you're a man and you're attracted to women, it's like the people, the women, they know a mile away. If you're faking it, if you're that guy, you dressed up real nice, you're trying to look flashy, but you didn't have the confidence, they're going to eat you alive, and they'll spread their distance. But if they know you have true confidence, even if you're in some ripped up clothes and you don't have all the best stuff in the world, but you're completely confident in yourself and you know who you are, they'll flock to you. It's the weirdest thing in the entire world. And if you don't believe me, please try it. Get confident enough to do it. And next thing you know, it's like they start coming out of the woodwork, and it's not because anything changed, it's just the view of yourself changed. And females do it the same way. As your view of yourself changes, the more caliber of people that are going to come into your life. Both guys and girls go through this, where it's like, wow, I'm talking to the opposite sex, and um, it's like I keep attracting these not high caliber quality of people. Why is this happening? Why am I getting bums instead of badasses? And it all comes to how are we viewing ourselves, because the more confident we become in ourselves and our own ability and who we are, the more we're going to attract that right person at that level. So if you're thinking of yourself as a bum, it's like, boom, more inherently than not, we're probably going to be attracting more bums. If you view yourself as a very high caliber person and you trained yourself to become that way, you're going to in essence attract females or males, whatever sex you are of the opposite sex, to that caliber. It's the most interesting thing that I've ever seen. And that's just something you guys are going to have to test out. It's a cool test. It really is. But if you're going to talk about it, then be about it. And if you're not ready to talk about it, if you're not ready to talk about your goals and what you want to accomplish and what you want to do and back it up with action, then just start ahead with the action. Don't even say nothing, and show what you can do while believing in yourself, and people will talk for you. You don't even have to say anything. And that's when the real magic happens right there. But guys, be confident in yourself. Everything in your life will change truly, even if it's just a little bit. Um, the greener grass always seems to be greener on the other side. Napoleon Hill has a big breakdown on discontentment. So basically, people not loving where they're at. And from birth until death, the mind is always reaching out for that which it does not possess. A kid, if it sees another kid, it might have a toy. It might have a badass toy. It might even be better than the other kids. But if he sees another kid having more fun with a different toy, even if that toy isn't as good, it's like, well, fuck, man, he's having a lot of fun. I'm playing with that one. Hey, give me your toy. And it's like, it's always reaching for the stuff we don't want because he wasn't content with where he was. This happens with married men and lustful thoughts. That's where the danger zone happens. You start having lustful thoughts if you're married, and you start wondering, well, what if life was different with this female, or what if this person was going to be doing this instead of what I'm getting right now? What if this person helped me out with the dishes instead of told me to do the dishes? It's the littlest shit. And then you start putting yourself in that other deal instead of being grateful for where you are. It's a dangerous place to be because you're always searching for that next thing. Oh, happiness is just around the corner. It's coming on my next goal, or it's going to be here in the next fulfillment. It's going to be here at the next objective. But if we can switch that and we can understand that we can have gratitude and we already have everything that we need, and it's only going to continue to get better. That's where the magic is really been able to put into work. Um, and the fun is the journey and the growth. It's the process, it's the building. That's where you get the most reward from. And I don't know if anybody's experienced this. I know I have, where you're working towards a goal, you're working towards a goal, you're working towards a goal, and then finally you hit the goal, and you're looking around like, that was cool, like I accomplished it, but what's next? I did it. Now what? It's like I thought that was the end all be all, but I got it, and now what? Um, it's very interesting because it's not always about the end goal. It's about the process. It's about the progress, and it's about the growth. A lot of wealthy people, they'll say once they made it, it's great, but they were having more fun and they were living more when they are in the process to get the wealth. And so it's like, enjoy every step of the journey. Understand your path has the greenest pastures if you're looking for it. But if you take your eye off of your path and your pastures, you're like, fuck, that guy's a flower over in his pasture. Fuck, I want to go pick it and put it in my pasture. That's where the danger happens. Um, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. It's like if you stay single, now you're looking at instead of being content with your own pasture, people get in the habit of looking at people that are married. Like, man, they got a partner, they got a spouse, they got somebody to come home to every night. They got somebody that eats dinner with them. They're looking at all this good stuff. And then if you get married, it's like, man, well, look at my homie Johnny over there. Johnny's able to talk to all the ladies. He doesn't have anything tying him down. He can go home and he can be free. It's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So you got to be thankful for what you have. And we get to choose our path. We get to choose our struggle. Everybody struggles either way. It's just, what path are you going to choose to struggle on? And love yourself. You got to fill your own cup. If your cup is not full, you can't spread more. Your cup isn't going to overflow and be able to spread into other people. And you can't, if your candle isn't ignited, you won't be able to ignite other people. But once you fill your own cup and you're confident and you know who you are and you know what you're about and you know your strengths, now you can spread that and you can pass that along as a great message or a great skill. My cup runneth over, baby. Now, limitations of men. It's the most interesting thing. Like, it's fucking crazy because most people do this with celebrities. It's like you see him on TV, you see him in a show, you see him in a certain event, and you're like, man, that person's incredible. They're so great. And we put them on a pedestal because we see him on a fucking screen. And you're not seeing the limitations of them, only seeing the best. Social media does this all the time now, where you're seeing the non-limits. It's like, these people are fucking perfect. these Instagram models, they're perfect, they got it all. But behind the scenes, they're getting the right angle, getting the right lighting. It's like everything has to be dialed in. And if you would have been in that photo shoot, you'd be like, oh fuck, that's just a lady. I didn't understand this until I met enough multimillionaires. I'm like, oh shit, that's just a person. You got to eat breakfast too. You have stuff too. It's like, before I started working for Jordan Belfort, it's almost like I didn't understand he was just a guy. And then you fly out and you see his house and you see him, and it's like, whoa, he's just a human. Like, he plays tennis. He's a baller. Like, he works hard and he works to achieve. And he's a very intelligent guy. I'll give him that, absolutely. He's a beast. He's done some cool stuff. But it's like, whoa, he has to eat breakfast in the morning. It's like, I gotta eat breakfast in the morning. And I went and watched him do a sales meeting with an architect out there in LA. And the first time I'm sitting there and I'm just watching, I'm like, I could do this. They're just people talking. If you meet a celebrity in real life, it's like, oh shit, it's just a person. Once you see somebody's limitations, it's almost like the facade goes away. But I was able to say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I hope you guys look at other people like that. If they can do it, I can do it, because they're just people. We all breathe the same air. We all bleed the same blood. It's like, we're all just people. So if you can believe in yourself enough, as much as you believe in that role model that you have, or that celebrity that you like, or that person in history that you like, you got to understand they're just a human just like us. Limitations, though. Emerson started talking about that. And then even Conor McGregor, it's like, everybody thought he was untouchable, but he's still, at the end of the day, he's still a human. He's still just a person. And it's like, stuff, he did some, he got drunk, did some stuff. He punched an old guy, I guess, you know? And it's like, man, he's just a human. It's like, he slipped too. He got drunk and lost his composure. Everybody's nobody's perfect. But if you put them on a pedestal, you inherently put them above you. You put people above you, you're putting yourself below others, and your confidence isn't there. So sometimes you have to get that visual of understanding everybody has their limitations. Nobody's perfect. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. And if you can realize that, you'll bridge the gap like that. And you'll be able to become more and more confident, because you understand that they're just like us. They're just a human. They got bad days, they got good days. Sometimes they get sick if they're not eating healthier, they're not getting enough sunshine, they're not living in positive mental attitude, they're not drinking enough water. It's like, they're a person, they're a human, they're just like you. Um, Beauty and happiness and contentment, they're all states of mind. We get to choose to have them, and that's a blessing. There's this little picture that I like. It's just these two little stick figures, and it's just like this big old like Pillsbury Doughboy type of stick figure, and he has a little sign and it says happiness. Then another stick figure comes over and he's like, hey, where'd you find that? And the guy with happiness, he's like, I created it myself. And that's really how it is we create our own happiness through the states of mind. Are we focusing on what we have and being grateful for what we have, focusing on our pastures and moving forward on it? Or are we looking at everybody else's pastures like, oh, fuck, he's got the goods over there, I got to get me some of those goods? Instead of creating our own, we'll take away from other men. And the definition of success, again, is getting anything you want in life without the violation of a fellow man. You can't violate the rights of a fellow man. If it's not based on truth and justice, it's not going to last forever. And a man without a vision shall perish. A man without a dream is dead. Because if you're not moving forward to something, working in progress towards that goal, that purpose, that attainment, that expectation, if you're not working towards it, you start getting distracted. And you start looking into everybody else's pasture. And like, well, fuck, oh, like their pasture's looking pretty good. And the temptation starts happening. Acres of Diamonds. This is a badass book. Basically, a guy leaves his home and he's going to travel the world and try to find basically diamonds, more diamonds. And the whole joke about the book is when he comes back home, or I can't remember if he passed away or you'll have to read the book. It's an interesting one, but his home was sitting on one of the largest diamond mines ever, and he didn't even know it, and he left to go find the opportunity when the opportunity was with him the whole time. I believe it's Russell Cromwell who wrote it, but Acres of Diamonds. You'll have to look it up. It's a short little book. If you get it on audio, it's a nice little audio, and I believe it's the book where a guy talks about he leaves his family, and he's looking for all this stuff, and eventually he gets to Spain, and he runs out of money looking for the diamonds, doesn't ever find it, and then he goes into the sea and never to be heard of again. And little to know again, that biggest diamond farm was at his house where he originally was. And I apologize if I misconstrued that story, because it might have been a mixture of some successful stories. But Acres of Diamonds, badass, and the opportunity really is within us every time. But human beings, they grow through the struggle. We're built for the fucking struggle. We live for the struggle. That's what makes us strong. Again, weak times create, or easy times create weak men. Hard times create strong men. And it's time for a new wave of alpha leaders to come out, but alpha servant leaders. And we're gonna wrap it up on this one. This is some badass stuff right here. Like I had a major revelation on this, and the first I'll break in is, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And in his heart is your heart of hearts, in your gut. It's not the mask that you put on when you go out and see everybody else, what psychologists will call the persona, where you'll go out and you're like, yeah, I'm the man, but internally you're scared, and you're like, oh, I want to put on this mask so people will know that I'm weak, or people will know that I'm vulnerable. Like, it's some bullshit. It's as a man thinketh in his heart. The Greeks would call it your heart of hearts, your gut. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And in your heart, you know. So again, it's not wishing, it's not hoping, it's knowing. And where does the knowing come from? The building of self-confidence. Where does the self-confidence come from? The repeated autosuggestion, or the self-hypnotism, the self-suggestion, the self-talk over and over, the self-action over and over and over, building it up just like a muscle. And I want to break into a couple Bible verses, just because I study a lot of different religions, and these were very, very impactful things, whether you believe them or not. And then after that, we'll get into a possible version of, what if reincarnation's real? I don't know what happens when we die. I don't think anybody is going to know while we're living. I mean, fuck, none of us do. But it's so interesting, because if you believe in Jesus, or even believe in the psychological history, because when I read the Bible, I'm reading a completely different book than most people, because I've broken into a bunch of different religions, a bunch of different SECT sects, and understand that each one has some gold nuggets to be able to bring into my wheel of knowledge. But he says, truly I tell ye, if ye have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible to you. So basically, if you ever look up a mustard seed on Google, it's a tiny ass seed, incredibly tiny. And if you have a little bit of faith, you can move a mountain. Boom, it'll be cast into the sea. And then John 14:12, it says, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do. So basically, he's in the book, this man's doing miracles, right? And if you believe that, you should have that same power, because they'll say, hey, man's made in the image of God, right? And if that was the perfect man in the story, then and he's doing miracles, then you should be able to do miracles too. The people who are into alchemy, like, they'll talk about, if you read the book The Alchemist, that's a pretty great book as well. It talks about the same stuff, creating magic, creating nothing, going from nothing to something to everything, creating something from nothing, changing alchemical processes, turning base metals into gold, or turning base thoughts and thinking into pure thinking. there's so much interesting stuff, and I could break into a bunch of different religions, but for this slide, this is what stuck out the most. And then there was another um, quote from Plato where it could be a possible talk about reincarnation. Who knows? Again, I'm just pointing out the examples of what this is. And he says, and if it is true that we acquired our knowledge before our birth and lost it at the moment of birth, but afterward, by the exercise of our own senses upon sensible objects, recover the knowledge which we had once before, I suppose that what we call learning will be the recovery of our own knowledge. And that's some crazy shit because I had a conversation all about this one sentence. I have already done this. It's already been done. The goals that I'm looking to attain have already been done. And if you can switch your thinking from, well, what's going to happen next? I don't know. I'm nervous. What if things don't go to plan? What if it's not according to how I thought it was going to work out? You lost because the faith wasn't there. The confidence wasn't there. Real confidence can be smelled a mile away. It's the craziest shit. But if you go into any situation and you can talk to yourself and say, I've already done this. It's already been done. Like it may have been a past life, whatever it may be, whatever your views are. I don't know. I got a lot of different theories, but who knows what's true? Who knows what's not? All I know is principles that have lasted throughout time and time and time again through history that I can base these judgments off of. But if you can switch yourself and think, well, what's going to happen? Is it going to work out? Well, I want this goal, but can it possibly? There's the hoping, there's the wishing, and you lose there. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. But if you can switch your perspective to any situation coming up, I have already done this. One simple sentence, I've already done this. Instantly, you're confident and you're just experiencing that we're going through the movie now. It's like, man, what's going to happen next? I've already done this, but I'm excited to see what happens next. It's already done. How's it going to play out, though, in order to get to where we're going? If you can switch the mindset and the perspective to, I have already done this, the fear goes away of everything. If you're afraid to speak in front of a crowd, I've already done this. It's like, oh, I've spoken in front of people before. Why is this different? Why is this nerve wracking? If I've spoken in front of one person, I can speak in front of 100,000 people. I have already done this. It's already been done. The goals are the same way. I've already got them. I've already attained them. I have everything I need already. I got it. I'm on my pasture. You can conquer anything with that one simple sentence right there, over and over and over and over and over and over. There's no end to it. Hit it in the mind, hit it in the mind, hit it in the mind. I've already done this. I got it. I believe in myself. I've already done this. And watch the whole world change around you. That's going to conclude episode 3 of the Laws of Success. And let's go here. Thank you guys so much. Again, we're going to be working to get these tools out to young men to be able to help them find the correct way to go and to become alpha servant leaders and real kings in the name of the big G, to be able to help hopefully avoid running headfirst into brick walls like I did so many times, time and time and time and time again. The next chapter is going to be incredible as well, but self-confidence is one of the most important ones in the entire world, and it's something that needs to be spread in different ways. And I hope anything that I've said today sparks an idea or a different way that you can relay it to other people, because I'm going to say stuff that's going to work and relate to other people. You're going to say stuff that's going to work and relate for different people. So continue to spread the message, a candle that lights another candle. And again, if you guys would like to donate, I'll hit the link down below. If not, guys, thank you for allowing me to learn as we go through this process together. You're incredible. You're worth it. You're valuable. And you have all the ability to change this world in a positive way. Love you guys, and I'll see you next Friday.